The South China Sea is no longer just a body of water. It has become the most dangerous chessboard on Earth. Right now, a massive geopolitical shift is happening that could decide the fate of the 21st century. On one side, we see reports of a 50-ship Chinese offensive swarming the West Philippine Sea. On the other, we have military simulations suggesting Beijing could blockade Taiwan in just 36 hours, effectively ending the war before the United States can even arrive. But there is a countermove in play that very few are talking about. The United States has just approved the sale of advanced F-16 Block 70 fighter jets to the Philippines. At first glance, this looks like a simple arms deal. But if you look at the map, you will see America's real calculation. It's called reverse encirclement. The United States Navy isn't just reacting, they are setting a trap. A trap designed to turn China's massive fleet into sitting ducks within the first island chain. Can the combined forces of the USA and the Philippines really stop a Chinese offensive? Can the US break a Taiwan blockade in under 2 days? And what exactly is this reverse encirclement strategy? Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are deep diving into the Pacific's most volatile flashpoint to separate the hype from the reality. Let's start with the headline news. The sale of F-16 Fighting Falcons to the Philippines. For years, the Philippine Air Force has been under-equipped compared to its neighbors. But the sudden push by Washington to supply the advanced Block 70 variant of the F-16 tells us something crucial about American strategy. So, what is America's real calculation here? It's not about the money. It's about geography and access denial. Look at the map. The northernmost island of the Philippines, Luzon, is separated from Taiwan by a narrow strip of water called the Bashi Channel and the Luzon Strait. This strait is a critical choke point. If China wants to encircle Taiwan or project power into the wider Pacific Ocean, its ships and submarines must pass through here. By placing advanced F-16s in the Philippines, specifically at bases like Basa Air Base or potential sites in Cagayan, the US and its ally can effectively close this gate. The F-16 Block 70 isn't an old jet. It comes equipped with the APG-83 AESA radar, technology shared with the F-35. This means these jets can track Chinese aircraft and ships from massive distances and share that targeting data directly with US Navy destroyers. The calculation is simple. If the Philippines can patrol its own sky and the Luzon Strait, the US Navy doesn't have to do everything alone. It forces China to split its attention. Instead of looking only at American aircraft carriers, the People's Liberation Army now has to worry about a fortified southern flank. This is the first step in the strategy, denying China free movement. But while the US plans for the future with F-16s, China is acting now. We have seen reports of a 50-ship offensive in the South China Sea. But what does this actually look like? This isn't a fleet of 50 warships opening fire. This is what experts call gray zone tactics. China uses a mix of Coast Guard vessels, which are actually larger than many Navy destroyers, and a maritime militia of steel-hulled fishing boats. They swarm disputed areas like the Second Thomas Shoal or Scarborough Shoal to block resupply missions and intimidate the Philippines. The question is, can the USA and Philippines combined stop this swarm? Technically, yes, but it is politically complicated. The Philippines has a mutual defense treaty with the US. Washington has explicitly stated that an armed attack on Philippine public vessels invokes this treaty. However, China's 50-ship swarm uses water cannons and lasers, not missiles, carefully staying just below the threshold of war. This is where the combined strategy comes in. The US has started joint patrols with the Philippines. The presence of a US Navy destroyer alongside a Philippine frigate changes the equation. It forces the Chinese militia to back off, because ramming a US warship is an act of war that Beijing is not ready for. So, while they cannot physically stop every ship without starting World War III, the combined presence creates a safety bubble that breaks China's bullying tactics. The sheer volume of Chinese ships is intimidating, but against the precision firepower of the US-Philippines alliance, numbers aren't everything. Now, let's escalate the scenario. The biggest fear for the Pentagon isn't the South China Sea skirmishes. It's a full blockade of Taiwan. Chinese military analysts and propaganda often claim they can blockade Taiwan in just 36 hours. sealing off the island before the U.S. Navy can even leave port in Japan or Hawaii. Is this possible? In theory, yes. China has the largest navy in the world by hull count. They could rapidly deploy mines around Taiwan's ports and surround the island with their Type 055 destroyers and submarines. But the question remains, can the USA stop this in 36 hours? The answer lies in submarines and bombers. Even if U.S. aircraft carriers are days away, the U.S. has two assets that are always watching: the Virginia-class attack submarines and long-range strategic bombers like the B-1 and B-2 Spirit. If China initiates a blockade, they present a stationary target. U.S. submarines, lurking silently in the deep waters of the Pacific, could engage Chinese high-value ships immediately. Furthermore, U.S. bombers launching from Guam or Australia can launch LRASMs, long-range anti-ship missiles, from hundreds of miles away. The U.S. strategy wouldn't be to fight every single Chinese ship to ship. It would be to punish the blockade. If China loses 10 or 20 major warships in the first 24 hours to unseen missiles, the blockade becomes unsustainable. So, while China can start a blockade in 36 hours, the U.S. has the firepower to turn that blockade into a graveyard just as quickly. This brings us to the grand finale of U.S. strategy, the reverse encirclement. For decades, China has felt encircled by U.S. allies: Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. This is known as the first island chain. China's goal has been to break out of this chain. But the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps have flipped the script. Instead of just using these islands as walls, they are turning them into weapons. The U.S. has begun deploying mobile missile launchers, like the Typhoon weapon system and HIMARS, to islands in the Philippines and Japan. These systems can fire Tomahawk missiles and SM-6 missiles capable of hitting ships at sea. This is the reverse encirclement. If the Chinese Navy tries to leave their coast to blockade Taiwan or attack the U.S. fleet, they effectively have to sail into a ring of fire. They are trapped inside the first island chain. By selling F-16s to the Philippines, upgrading bases in Luzon, and arming Japan, the U.S. has created a situation where Chinese ships are targeted from land, sea, and air from all directions. It is a strategic trap designed to make the cost of war too high for Beijing to afford. So, to summarize, the sale of F-16s to the Philippines is the final piece of a puzzle. It secures the southern flank of Taiwan and creates a unified wall of defense. While China's 50-ship offensive and 36-hour blockade plans are formidable and dangerous, the reality is that the U.S. and its allies have spent years preparing a counter-strategy. The reverse encirclement means that any offensive by China meets immediate, distributed, and devastating resistance. The region is on a knife edge. The weapons are loaded, and the fleets are moving. We can only hope that this balance of terror maintains the peace, rather than shattering it. What do you think? Is the U.S. strategy of arming the Philippines stabilizing the region, or is it provoking China into a conflict? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more defense analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.